Morning everybody. I am doing a quick video, and I know that I've done this in the past. I've done it a few times, but soon two things are going to be coming up. Well, actually more than two things. National minimum wage will be increasing shortly. We are going to be having Easter, if you celebrate Easter, and also Mothering Sunday is going to be on the same day. Now, what I aim to do during Lent, which is 40 days and 40 nights, is not always give something up, so to speak. I mean, I've done that over the last 20 years of my life. You know, I've given something up, be it chocolate, be it fizzy drinks, be it using public transport, and then taking the opportunity to walk places for 40 days. And then recently what I did was I aimed to read these books by Anna Todd called the After series, which I painstakingly tried to do over 2 years, and I'm still not finished. But this year, I apologise, I'm always yawning in my videos. I'm thinking about doing something completely and utterly different. So over the next 40 days and 40 nights of Lent, I will aim to every single day to talk about or give information of my own life and personal experiences that I've endured, and how I've potentially overcome them. And one of the main things that's obviously worrying me a lot recently, again, is when I'm seeing videos of people crying on social media because of the cost of living, because they're not being able to feed themselves and their children, when they're not being able to afford basic amenities, things that we need to survive: food, warmth, shelter. And I'm not trying to preach to anyone. I'm not trying to convert people into doing different things or thinking different ways. If that it helps, fair enough, but it's my own personal experience. But the reason why I'm saying things we need is because even when I used to set up my blogs, I do apologise, I have dyslexia, so a lot of the stuff I do post online might not always make sense. I'm talking about the things that everybody needs. It doesn't matter where you live in the world, you need food, you need warmth, and you need shelter. And without those three basic things that people need, then everything else that you aim to do in order to stay safe, well, and healthy, be that mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, whatever you want to say, cannot happen. We've got to be realistic about that. So it's food, warmth, and shelter. And I guess the thing that really annoyed me was that during COVID, which I don't really want to get into, everyone has their own views and opinions of COVID, is that during that period, everyone was given the opportunity to have food, warmth, and shelter. People that were homeless in other countries, like Africa, even in the United Kingdom, were supported and given temporary, and that is the word, temporary sheltered accommodation to help get them off the streets. And if every government in the world was able to pull together long enough to support people, it didn't matter whether what they did was right or wrong. Again, that's your own personal experience. But to offer the basics of food, warmth, and shelter, during a pandemic, then in my opinion, these free basic necessities can be offered 365 days a year, 7 days a week. And the reason, in my opinion, they're not being offered 365 days a year, 7 days a week, is because it's the government who are choosing to not allow those things to take place for whatever reason. I'm not saying I want to live in a fascist or communist society where the government are going to say, okay, yeah, sure, we'll give you food, warmth and shelter. But if you want those three basic things, you've got to do A, B, C, and D to get them. And if you don't, then you can live outside society. You know, like in films like Divergent, for example, where everybody fitted into a caste system. And if you didn't fit into a caste system, you were basically left to fend for yourself. And we still have caste systems all over the world. In the United Kingdom, things have kind of shifted a little. We still have what you call upper class, lower class, and middle class. And then we have the other class that people choose to maybe not talk about or want to be accepting of. And that is the caste system where people are living below the poverty line. Now, that caste system has never been eradicated in the United Kingdom. So, as much as I want to support other countries and support people in third world countries or anywhere whose lives, who, let's face it, are a lot worse than people who live in the UK, when you find that there are people in the United Kingdom who don't have food, warmth, and shelter in the country you live in, surely you should be saying to yourself, I know I say to myself, why is that happening? We're in the 21st century and there are still people living without food, warmth, and shelter in the UK. And people will have their own views and opinions as to why that is, and that's fine. You know, I don't have an issue with that. The issue I have is the fact that people are still struggling. And I can speak from personal experience that over 12 years ago, I was homeless, jobless, with severe health problems and a newborn baby. And people are probably thinking, well, you know, you had a baby, so surely society helped you. The government, you know, gave you a home to raise that child. They didn't. Okay, and I'll maybe talk about that a little bit more over the next 40 days of 40 nights through Lent. But this is just to give you a basic idea of the sort of thing I'm going to talk about. And prior to becoming homeless, jobless, critically ill, with a newborn baby, I lived on my own. I had 4 0-hour contract jobs. For a short period, I did drive. But again, due to unforeseen circumstances, that stopped happening. I tried to use public transport, but again, it just got to the point where it just wasn't cost effective for me to do so. And unfortunately, some of my jobs did require transport. And like anyone in society, we don't all have the luxury of finding employment in the town in which we live in. And again, people have their own views and opinions of this. People might say, well, if you can't find a, look somewhere else. And again, this is what is expected of you by the government. They will expect you, last time I checked, the DWP expected you to be able and willing to travel up to almost 2 hours in one direction for employment. So they're expecting you to do an average of 4 hours a day in travel for work. And again, that is what the government guidelines are. Do I agree with them? Personally, no. But it is what it is, and if I want the government to pay me due to unemployability, then that is something you have to consider and abide by once you sign a legal contract with them. But again, these are things that I may or may not talk about in more depth over Lent. But the bottom line is, when I no longer had employment, despite having 4 0-hour contract jobs, I ended up becoming homeless. My health deteriorated more than what it already had. I found out I was pregnant with my first child. And the support that I received from the British government was basically zero. So when people assume that women who get pregnant and are trying to scav off the government, so to speak, let's have a reality check here. That's not how it works, and it's not how it's happening in the future. There are so many changes to the way society are treating pregnant women that it's no longer like it's the 21st century anymore. It's like we're going back to, Victorian England, so to speak. So hopefully, if there's anything anyone wants me to talk about, please leave some comments, and I will aim to try and keep it as positive and upbeat as possible with ways that I've been able to try and support myself and my family. And hopefully, after Lent, some of that information may or may not be useful to you. And also, if I can advise services that are national that can be used, then I will do. But again, that is my own personal experience and my own personal advice. And all I can do is advise. I am not qualified to give any legal information. That is not what this is about. So please, please, please look out for my YouTube video, and hopefully some of the information in there will be supportive, and also you're not alone. Okay? There are so many people out there who are struggling to have food, warmth and shelter in today's society. And I think, if anything, what we have to take away from this is, how do we reduce the amount of people that are struggling? And how do we support people with food, warmth and shelter in the future? Thank you.